Analyst to break down the second win SKT's picked up today.
Thank you very much, Pyra. Exactly that. SKT picking up the much-needed 2-0 today in order to keep themselves not only in the conversation for the bracket stages alone over G2, but more importantly when it comes to playoff positioning to look for that top 3 as opposed to that 4 seed and avoid playing RNG in the first round.
Yeah, it certainly is like massive right now, especially given the fact that they don't actually have the head-to-head versus Flash Wolves. Like, Flash Wolves just 2-0'd them. So SKT really need to keep winning and maybe even hope for some CLG losses tomorrow to really keep that top 4 hope alive, because with a victory over CLG today, they did themselves a favor, but they dug a pretty deep hole already.
I mean, step 1 obviously for SKT is beat G2 tomorrow, so there's no chance for G2 to make it into the top 4. If G2, crazy world, do manage to beat SKT, they can actually still tie them and force a tiebreaker later. So step 1 is obviously the first game, take them out, and then you face the RNG last.
And based on this game, like, obviously the Turkish team isn't the strongest team in this tournament, but SKT looked a lot cleaner than they did during their 4-game losing streak. And SuperMassive was a team that was putting up a pretty big fight against a lot of teams here, and SKT did have a pretty dominant showing.
And I think they also kind of put some more faith back in the Azir pick, because it was more like Faker's Azir. He was looking for actually creating these picks, whereas beforehand, he hadn't really done that against the Flash Wolves or RNG. So I think they at least bolster their confidence that little bit that they can still play to the elite level.
Yeah, that being said, we did see still some stuff out of individuals like Blank getting caught out pretty early in the game for an easy kill. And those are the kinds of things that are still uncharacteristic to the old SKT, the SKT that we know of and had imagined would be kind of blazing through this tournament.
To be fair, I mean, yeah, we expected him to obviously do extremely well, and we wouldn't see these kind of mistakes. But again, during the split, we have seen these bad games, honestly, from time to time. You know, before IM Katowice, even after when they came back, lost to KT, lost to the Tigers before playoffs even started. So a lot of people didn't put them as the favorite to win. So we have seen some poor games overall, but not as bad as we saw in the last 4 games. And Faker said it himself, it's like the worst they've played since like season 3 almost. Season 2 even.
And there was one specific moment in this game that I really liked. It was when Blank was able to save Faker with the Kindred ultimate, because that's the type of teamwork and trust building that they need to have here, because Faker really had no one that had his back during their losing streak, and it actually felt like it was kind of coming together a little bit for SKT.
But maybe still one attackable area for SKT, and once again, credit to the bottom lane of SuperMassive, is that Bang & Wolf are normally a very passive, like slow pace. They get to the mid game and they start team fighting, but they are getting drawn into these scrappy engages, and sure, they were stepping up a little bit more in this game, but that's still, to me, if you're an SKT fan, can be worrying.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, realizing that SKT did pick up the 2 necessary wins. Let's go ahead and look at the 1 day left to go in group stages. The teams are stacked up. RNG still holding that top spot with 7-1, no longer undefeated. However, CLG and Flash Wolves are tied behind them and will join Royal in the bracket stage. Those 3 are all through in the clear. SKT is sitting at 4-4, 1 win shy of securing the last playoff spot. All they need to do is beat G2 tomorrow, and they're in. G2 Esports has 2 wins under their belt, while the TCL SuperMassive has 1 and has been eliminated from next week's games. G2 still has a sliver of hope if all goes correct. However, it is looking unlikely that they'll make it into the bracket stages.
Well, it is unlikely, but at the same time, if they beat SKT, they have a legitimate chance.
Right.
Because at that point, SKT has already lost to China. If they lose again, then voila, both teams have 4 wins and they get to play a tiebreaker game. So that's their win condition.
Right, and I think if you are cheering for G2, watching SKT against CLG today is a very, very bad sign, because SKT actually showed, you know, we can go back to the style where we react more. We wait for you to make some mistakes and overextend, and then we will punish you. G2 makes a lot of mistakes, so that kind of game is the worst actually for G2. They were hoping to see SKT continue their slump and like have some very, very messy games, but didn't happen.
Now let's talk about perhaps the more interesting matchup, which is, or not matchup, race in the playoffs, which is for that 3rd and 2nd seed between Flash Wolves, CLG, and SKT now, who have to be a part of the conversation, only 1 game behind them.
Yeah, they certainly do, and I know that Flash Wolves play off against CLG tomorrow, and that's going to be a huge game to see who really gets ahead in that, because they have to be favorites to get the second, especially if it's Flash Wolves, because once again, they 2-0'd SKT. They've been looking promising in their macro game, and I think that is something that, you know, they will have their eyes fixed firmly on that prize, because people want to still dodge RNG. They had a sloppy game today where they threw away a massive gold lead, but still look to be the team to beat.
Yeah, 100%. Do you have something thrown there?
Oh, it's just now we've seen all these, technically a BO2, I guess, because both teams have been facing each other on each side. We get to the point where we have a week in between games. We get to best out of 5, and I kind of feel bad for the teams who've done all the hard work beating SKT now, kind of pulled them down the standings, and then you might have to face them anyway moving into the BU5s, because that's a whole different beast, obviously.
Absolutely. I think for CLG and Flash Wolves, the important thing for them to realize is that if you consider each of these teams having a win against G2 and SuperMassive, respectively, tomorrow, it's really going to come down to the game between themselves. They are in control of their own destiny. The winner of that game, if they both secure wins from their other matches, does get second place. They do avoid having to play RNG in that first round, and that's really, really big.
Exactly, but also North America has to make sure they don't sleep on Europe, because that was not an expected matchup for North America to win coming in. They're also the only team to drop a game to IWC, and they've had a fair number of comebacks here at the event, because we're talking about the possible variance for CLG.
Yeah.
They could be as high as 6-2 right now, but as low as 2-6 if a few of those gold deficits didn't get reversed at the end of the game. So there's no way, I think because CLG knows this, they won't be sleeping on G2, but it's by no means a free win.
Yeah, there's still a lot of jostling that can happen in the standings. We'll be right back here tomorrow for the final day of the MSI group stage, starting with China's RNG versus SuperMassive. Then the LMS's Flash Wolves will look for revenge when they go up against CLG. After that, Korea's SK Telecom takes on Europe's G2 Esports in a game that can decide both of their fates here in Shanghai. We've already gone through all the different scenarios, so that will hit your streams tomorrow 2 hours earlier than normal. So tune in at 11:30 a.m. for those of you in Shanghai, 5:30 a.m. Central European Summertime, or Saturday evening at 8:30 p.m. for our friends in the Pacific Daylight Time Zone. That's going to be helpful. It's a little bit earlier in the evening for those. Now, on behalf of the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.